This is the nearly famous Barry Young Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, still up here in the observation and counting room of the Fortress of Civility. It is the day after, and the nearly famous Barry Young Show is... Oh, loud for that. On the air. Thank you, Raul. Loud for that. All right, let's see here. Here's our own Michelle Larson, and there's Babinski. And the disgruntled Mr. Garcia, and as I said, Raul, the KFYI official illegal alien, everybody recovering from the last night coverage. Let me just go down the list here and start the program with this, which you already know. Let's see, Ohio went for Obama. Iowa went for Obama. Colorado went for Obama. Did they call Florida yet? Have they? Is it still
No, they have not called Florida.
So it's still hanging Chad. What about Virginia? Has that been called?
Virginia is a done deal.
That went for?
Obama.
Okay, so let's see. Let me go over this again. Ohio, Iowa, Colorado, and Virginia went for Obama, just as we predicted here on the program.
We are so good.
Holy cow. For a while, for just a little while, the Romney people were disputing the Ohio call. Karl Rove was on Fox News, said it wasn't over, but the numbers didn't add up, so it was about 12:57 Eastern Time that Romney called Obama to concede, and Romney delivered a gracious concession speech last night over the phone to the President of the United States. Very nice, very nice. And once again, here we are on the program today. And, of course, the number one issue is what went wrong. We're going to get into this. And we're going to spend a great deal of time allowing you to dial in on the program and take a lot of open phone calls today, too, because here it is the day after. We still have one race that has not been called here in this. Two races, I think, have been called here. They called the Vernon Parker-Kirsten Sinema race. They haven't done that yet. I think there's a 2,000 votes spread with Sinema in the lead.
Which means they're within the margin of what we would call error, if you will. I mean, they're going to go back and check this out.
On the other hand, the voting is all over. So 2,000, they'll recount, I guess.
Exactly.
But, who knows? And then where's the other up there that they have not yet called? Was that
Peyton and Kirkpatrick?
Yeah, Peyton Kirkpatrick. Okay, so they haven't called that one yet. But, and ladies and gentlemen, the bright spot of the evening is, of course, the Jeff Flake, as we said on the program.
Oh, yes.
One.
Magnificent.
What if I say this? What if I say that Obama got his revenge? That's what he said he wanted. He wanted revenge. And he got his revenge. And so we go from here, and it is a new day. And there are going to be a lot of people saying, well, what happened? You were so sure. What happened? And you know what happened? I'm going to tell you right now. I can tell you right here at the beginning, and we're going to talk about this throughout the program. A lot of my predictions were based on the fact that for the first time in a long time, there were more Republicans registered than there were Democrats. And for the first time in a long time, we believe, everybody believed, that Republicans were fired up and they were ready to go vote. And really, there were a lot of Republicans fired up and ready to go vote. But it comes down to this, and we're going to link to this at the KFYI.com nearly famous Barry Young Show page today, because everybody was conducting exit polls. Everybody had exit polls. Now, these are very long, complex documents, but Fox has put together a summary of their exit poll. And look, if you decide to run this off, even though it's a summary, let me just count this. It's at least 12 pages. So it's very comprehensive, and this is just the summary. Let me tell you one of the first things that will leap out at you this morning. Some of you will be in dumbfounded disbelief when you hear this. I don't believe that Jim Sharp and the junk man talked about it. I haven't really heard it being talked about on the morning newscast all that much. In fact, I take that back. Weasel words. I'm not even going to say all that much. I haven't heard anybody say this. I'll just read this to you verbatim. Dana Blatton at Fox News wrote this. It's the headline is Fox News exit poll summary. Obama's key groups made the difference. You'll read down in the exit poll. You find things like non-whites made up 28% of the electorate, up a bit from 27% in 2008. You see where I'm going here? We were told that non-whites were very active in 2008. 8, but they were not going to be as active.
They were not going to be as, and the word is, enthusiastic.
Right. Let me read this sentence again. Non-whites made up 28% of the electorate, up from the 27% in 2008. Right, wait. There's more. While 45% of the independents backed Obama, that was down from 52% from last time. And you would think, well, that would be good news for Mitt Romney. There's one little problem. I'm going to read this to you again, verbatim. More Democrats than Republicans voted. What? Democrats for the first time in I don't know, maybe my life, were not the majority party. There were more Republicans registered to vote this year than there were Democrats. I'll read it to you again from the Fox News exit poll summary. More Democrats than Republicans voted, 38 to 32%.
That is just unbelievable. Every model the three of us have been looking at here for about a year, more than every model said, the Republicans and the independents were lined up to say, we're here, we're ready, we're voting, and we don't think we're going to work in.
It's stunning.
Isn't this information incredible?
Now, last year, Democrats outnumbered Republicans on the voter rolls. Okay. And they also outnumbered Republicans in voting by 39 to 32%. This year, as I said, let's say this again so it sinks in. There are more Republicans registered to vote than Democrats. Still, this year and 4 years ago, 32% of the electorate was Republicans. This time, it was 38% were Democrats. 39% last time were Democrats. Many Republicans simply did not vote. Now, as the sun rises over America, that may be hard for you to believe. But this is the first information that's coming out from the Fox News exit poll this morning. And it's not the headline, believe it or not. You got to read down in the story to get to this headline. To me, that is absolutely stunning.
No, to me, it's absolutely disturbing. Disturbing.
So here it is. Now, I'm not going to be the one to get on the air and say, well, you got what you deserved. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say that the models that we accepted to be the most accurate models that could be put together of who was going to vote, and there were a lot of people who were onto these models, they did not turn out in large part because a lot of Republicans did not turn out. It is the most stunning piece of news that I can bring to you this morning. Why is it not the main story? I don't know. But there you have it as we start the break. And do me a favor, just in case I've got my glasses on inside out. Michelle, would you,
let me pass you mine.
Would you do me a favor?
Yes,
just
let me look.
I want you to read it. It's the first emboldened.
Oh, wait a minute. I can't see it either.
Try these on. It's the first emboldened paragraph, and I want you to read it verbatim.
I will.
Just to make sure I'm not seeing things, because I was up all night and got no sleep. So
I was up all night. I got no sleep. I watched all of the incoming, I call it incoming. Let me read this to you. This is really, really sad. And I'm quoting, more Democrats than Republicans voted. 38 to 32%. In 2008, Democrats also outnumbered Republicans by 39 to 32. So the model held for Democrats. They turned out in exactly the same numbers, and we failed. We totally
failed.
How about, can I say we totally sucked?
I'm dumb. I used the word dumbfounded for a purpose here, because amid those statistics, for the first time, more Republicans were registered to vote than Democrats. Last time, more Democrats were registered to vote.
Do you know, even in Arizona, that independents switched over, and we had more Republican registration in this last year? So they were leaning. We all thought, hey, they're coming to the party, right? So, they're going our way.
That's, what could you do? Look, again, I'm not a statistician. I'm not a number cruncher, but I just don't have to be with these numbers. There it all is. All right, look, more of the show is coming up this morning here on the Wednesday, the day after. As I said, we're going to have a lot of phone calls, a lot of your calls. We're going to invite you to take part. You can vent, and you should, because, Michelle, up in your neck of the woods, there's a big radio station called WCCO.
Absolutely. Heritage Station.
WCCO has out a story today that we will get to. Some may suffer from post-election depression. So, We're going to help you through.
Count me in.
We're going to help you through it today here on the program. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Fortress of Civility and the Forward Counting House of the nearly famous Barry Young Show, the program is on the air.
I have a dream. I have a dream today.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Change, change, change.
Oh, yeah. Aretha Franklin.
Change, change, change.
Let me tell you why we're playing this, shall we?
Change, change, change.
Sing it, baby.
Change.
Let me tell you why we're rejoining with this today. That's, of course, the great queen of soul, Aretha Franklin, and selected the song because I want you to think about something. You're at 725 on November the 7th. We are today exactly where we were 24 hours ago. Nothing changes. We have a Democratic Senate. We have a Democratic House. We have Barack Obama. We got all of his czars.
No. We have a Republican House.
I'm sorry. Democratic Senate, Republican House, excuse me. And and I apologize for that. That comes up from being up all night, banging my head against the wall.
You know why? Because it feels so good when you stop.
I was actually looking forward to coming into work today because I thought, I can stop banging my head against the wall. We are exactly where we were 24 hours ago, but with one thing, and I think we need to handle this fairly early in the show. The message that's coming back is, all right, after one of the most divisive campaigns ever in the history of the United States, where America has sort of, how do I say this, sort of Balticized, can I say that? It's almost tribal right now. There is no mandate for this president of the United States. Don't get me wrong. He's elected. He's the president. He's my president. But there's no mandate. There's no, I mean, if he thinks, this is like the people of the United States want me to go in and raise their taxes. No. This is what did Drudge run all night as his headline, the divided states of America.
Yeah, well, I said this last night. It's really, really hard if you voted for this guy the first time around in 2008. It's really hard to fire the guy you hired. It's kind of embarrassing to say, hey, I made a bad choice. So the division was not so great, but I'm going to differ with you on this, Barry. I think there is a mandate because when I look across the United States of America and who actually got hired last night, it's really, really disturbing. Really incredible.
Well, I mean, what do you mean? Who got hired? Give me an idea.
Let me give you one example.
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth Warren in Massachusetts, who beat Scott Brown last night.
She's she's Foxahontas, right? The faux Indian?
Yes, exactly. Foxahontas, yes. Yeah. And she beat Scott Brown, who is a wonderful and very moderate conservative, by I'm looking now like 6 or 8 points. This is disgraceful. She's just going to be a monstrosity in the Senate, and she will be there for the rest of her life. Rest of her life.
Yeah, but that's there. Look, the margin of victory, and don't get me wrong, I'm not short selling this. It's a victory. But the margin of victory is so small that we can't ignore the fact that U.S. voters, American voters, are deeply divided by, listen to this, race and gender and their spirituality and party affiliation. And you can't claim to be carrying out the will of the people when half the population said no.
But I guess that's what I'm saying, though. We are so divided that he got his mandate from his side of the aisle. He got a very clear mandate from his side of the aisle.
That's kind of bizarre. It's like saying I have a mandate from half the people. Well, then that's not a mandate.
Well, but you just said it, though. We are split right down the middle, and I don't think any time we're going to meet again.
No. This is something we do need to talk about on the air, and this is something we do agree on. America will never be the same again. But I have to disagree with you.
Okay.
You get a mandate from half, and you don't have a mandate.
Well, but what I'm saying is we're not talking about Ronald Reagan's America. We're not talking about blue dog Democrats, and we're not talking about Southern Democrats and Reagan Democrats. We're not doing that anymore. I mean, the public is clearly on one side of the sea or the other.
Yeah, well, But they're split. I mean, I think about mandates. I think about George W. Bush, whether or not he had a mandate when he got elected right after 9/11. That's a mandate.
That's a mandate.
Franklin Roosevelt's got the Great Depression, and then on top of that, Pearl Harbor. That's a mandate. Lyndon Johnson comes in. He came in involuntarily. JFK's assassinated.
We have Vietnam.
Got a mandate. So, look, it's not often that the American people unite like this. But this is about as far away from being united as you can possibly get. We're fragmentized.
It's a deep divide.
We are very fragmented. Hold on a second. We're going to continue on the program. We'll look at some more of this, let you know exactly what was on people's minds when they came out of the voting booth. And it's not just the voting booth exit polling. This was done, too, with people who voted by mail, voted early, and all of that. So who voted and why, and what were they thinking, and why, and all of that. Coming up on the program today, and by the way, in all of my prognostications, I was correct about one very important thing.
Which one?
And during this news update, I'm going to dig down in there and I'm going to find it. So, hang on.
Rush later today at 10:06. Now, Barry Young, News Talk 550 KFYI.
KFYI.com.
7:40 on the program, the nearly famous Barry Young Show. Somebody sent me a text. You're going to be from the Humble Pie Room. Well, look, I'm certainly going to sit here and face all of you today. Some of you are upset. In fact, let's, if we can, let's right over here to Babinski, who's on the Facebook pages of the nearly famous Barry Young Show, where the accolades are flowing in this morning. Can you share some of the Facebook posts to the page? Because look, I mean, there's no question. I called the election back on August 24th, based on a lot of information, which again we will go over. And I wasn't the only one out there on that limb, by the way. But at any rate, some of the more satisfied listeners of the program today are writing on the Facebook page. Here's one.
This is from Kim.
Kim,
who is a loyal Facebook friend.
4 years I listened to you all. What a bunch of misguided hacks. I'm sorry to say, you are funny, nice people.
Right.
Misleading. Done with talk radio.
Okay, misleading. That's interesting. Misleading. So she obviously feels that we set out to mislead.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So let's just try another one here.
Barry,
Yep.
Are you going to look into the mirror this morning and say, I am an idiot?
Okay.
Nice call, Barry. I added the tone to that post, but I'm guessing I am accurate.
Okay.
Andrew, is Barry going to eat crow over his gross incompetent conclusions by his biased wishes? Love the show and love Andrew. But your entertainment goals have lost credibility.
I'm sorry. What was that you threw in there? Love the show, love Andrew.
Oh, I love the show and Michelle. Andrew and Michelle.
Oh, thank you.
Right.
Okay, good.
Okay.
But your entertainment goals have lost credibility in an ounce of journalism your show tries to maintain.
Okay, let me stop one
Stop.
thing. We are not journalists and never have claimed to be journalists.
It's no more apparent than today.
Thank you so much for that.
This is a really important point, though.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to be, Dan Rather. Oh, we don't want to be Dan Rather, but we're not journalists here on the program.
Let's hear what else we have here.
Oh, no.
I wish you were right. Mad that I fell for your diatribe. You are not in touch with this country.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Was that an arrow to the heart?
Man, right into the heart. Right into the heart. Well, there were a lot of things that I believe were going to be the case, that the mathematical models were not going to be the same, especially that Republicans would do their part, since we had more Republicans who were registered to vote than Democrats. And I thought that they would go out and do their part. I had no idea that many would sit home. I again am just struggling to understand in such a rate. And I don't think anybody can really adequately explain this, how in such a race where emotions ran white hot, you'd have a significant number of Republicans who outnumbered Democrats not vote.
I can tell you what is freaky about presidential races and senatorial races, and when you rise up into those echelons, is it's no longer going out and giving speeches and getting people to come to a rally or getting people to say, I believe in your platform or your policies. It really is about statistics. It's about the team behind you saying, we're working as mathematicians this entire time you're on the stump. Right. Don't you agree with me on this point?
I'll tell you this.
They do it better than we do. They really do it better than we do.
One thing I realized today is that forecasting the future is hard. There were others who I don't think any of us were exactly with each other. We varied with electoral college votes and the way that the campaign was going to get to victory and the way that, which states would fall and which states would go through and come through for Romney. But I'll tell you some of the people who were predicting in one way or the other what I was predicting. There's an astute political commentator that everybody knows. Michael Barone was out there.
Love him.
All right. He made his prediction in the Washington Examiner about a week and a half ago.
And it was very much the same as yours.
Yeah. In fact, he was much more sunny and optimistic than I turned out. None other than Peggy Noonan was feeling much the same way. Charles Krauthammer, when at the end of this, just a few days before, he believed that it was going to be Romney. And none of these are slouchy. Dick Morris, of course, is out there, not to mention Scott Rasmussen. Scott Res. How about this? Scott Rasmussen. You like that?
Yeah.
This. Anyway.
Missing the point today.
And I'm not the only one. These aren't the only ones. There were models, mathematical models and indicators that did not pan out, and it all tracks back to Republicans who sat at home. Look, I made my predictions knowing full well that I could be wrong. I mean, you just don't go out and make predictions unless you're willing to accept the fact and the consequences that you're wrong. I would challenge everyone today who's, posting these kinds of things on not only here, but, they're going into Fox.
Sure.
And they're going into Krauthammer and they're going to Peggy Noonan and all this. I just want you to ask yourself a question. I know that I did everything I could to try to work for a victory for Mitt Romney.
Well, make no mistake, we were in the tank for Mitt the whole time. So,
and yes. I know, I gave money, and I know I talked as much as I could. Yesterday, we had a prime example of other things. We had the Reverend Jared Maupin, who was out there with his band, hauling people back and forth.
Doing the Lord's work.
He was not asking him to vote for Romney, but the point is he was out there doing something. Well, it is easy to sit back and write nasty letters today to either side. That's the easiest thing in the world to do. The game is over. So, Babinski, how great a coach are you for the Cardinals game this past Sunday, the other day?
Oh, perfect.
Off the wall.
Nailed it.
I mean, is there any play based on that game last Sunday? Is there any play that you would get wrong in telling our guys what to do?
Of course not.
No, so, all right.
It was perfect.
Oh, can I ask a question?
Yes, we recognize the one over here in the red dress.
Thank you. At 7:47, can I get somebody who really had it correct and has a better idea and how it should have been handled here on the air to come in and relieve me at 8 so I can go get a cup of coffee and an egg sandwich? I'm just asking. Because I would be willing to go across the street and sit in the cafe and enjoy myself with my newspaper.
All right, let's see. It is 7:48 here on the program, and today we will take a moment to tell many of you how to handle your post-election depression. One of the ways that I suggest you do it, I'm quoting here, and you'll get to the whole thing in a few minutes, a noted psychologist in Indianapolis says one of the things you should do is go to the Facebook page of the Nearly Famous Barry Young Show and write the nastiest letter that you possibly can. Vicious. And you should you should project into it everybody's ever hurt you and write it to me because I can take it. What was Obama crying for the other night, by the way? Was he falling for our crap? 7:48. It's KFYI.
Sean Hannity this afternoon at 106. Now, Barry Young on News Talk 550 KFYI.
KFYI.com.
We are through the morning, as we said, taking phone calls here. The access number, 602-260-KFYI. You'd like to join in to Gilbert. Here is Spencer calling in this morning. Hi, Spencer. Welcome aboard, sir.
Hi, Barry. I've been a big fan of yours for 8 years.
Oh, thank you very much, sir.
Oh, you bet. And I just wanted to repeat, I guess, that repeated phrase that you guys say, that elections have consequences, but never before have we felt it so close to home. I mean, it was always kind of a distant thing to us, but I've been knocking out the prereqs for medical school, and I thought Romney was going to win. I thought 60% of the country didn't want social medicine, and I kind of relied on that, and I expected to be able to practice medicine eventually. But now there's just so much uncertainty. I had no idea that people would still vote in someone while being completely against something that he brought in, the healthcare thing. We have no idea the compensation that doctors are going to have, especially the specialists. They're not going to go to school for 3 years longer to make the same amount of money as, people who don't. And so my wife turned to me right after we found out, and she said, "So do you want to be a PA?"
To become a physician's assistant instead of becoming a medical doctor.
What was that?
To become a physician's assistant instead of a medical doctor. I mean, that's what she was asking you. Would you like to be a PA?
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this: why not just plow ahead? If you got the brain power and all that, and you sound like you do, plow ahead, go to medical school. You can always take that medical degree and do something else. But you are concerned you're going to work all this hard. You're going to be put on a salary cap that's not going to be commensurate with the kind of work that you have done. That's what it comes down to.
Absolutely, and it's more than that. We go way into debt. I mean, doctors. It's not just, they become doctors because, we want to be paid a lot. We become doctors because we care, yeah, but it's going to discourage a lot of us when we know that we're going to go to school for 10 years and we're going to have these debts that are just going to last forever. And the less and less that we make, the longer it's going to take us to pay these off, and it's just going to be discouraging.
Well, listen,
a lot of people.
I want you to do something. We're out of time this hour. I appreciate the call, and we're going to talk about this a little bit over your call, a little bit over into the next hour, too. After you and your wife talk, I would really love a phone call back sometime in the future. Let us know what you did. But we're going to continue this right after the news, next at 8 o'clock on this, the nearly famous Barry Young Show.
This is the nearly famous Barry Young Show.
Our Wednesday program, and hour 2 from the fortress of thank you, civility, is on the air. Michelle Larson, Andrew Babinski, the disgruntled Mr. Garcia, Raul, the KFYI official illegal alien, and me, the nearly famous Barry Young. Let's just go over this again. Ohio goes to Barack Obama. Iowa goes to Obama. Colorado goes for Obama. Florida still out. Virginia goes for Obama. And so, therefore, our predictions were just a little off. All right. One quick note before we do anything else, just reaching out to some other states. Our own Andrew Babinski here, always looking for the pothead stories. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the pothead part of our program. Thank you. Potheads, listen up. If it's not going the way you want it here in Arizona, because Arizona's pretty much fed up with this medical marijuana thing, there is a place for you to go, and it's within driving distance of your what kind of car?
It's not Amsterdam.
No, it's not Amsterdam. What kind of cars do potheads drive?
Was that on the air?
Mr. Garcia.
Corbin said
What are you
wagons.
talking about? Woodies?
VWs? VW vans?
Yeah,
Hold on.
I'm loving this.
Did his statement actually get on the air?
No, he said in the talk.
Okay, so Mr. Garcia, what did you say? They drive what?
Station wagons.
Station wagons. Is there a reason why potheads drive station wagons?
They can fit more potheads in there.
There.
The ones that don't have station wagons.
See? I have one, but I forgot where it is, man.
Dude, where's your car, man?
Oh, no. All right. So if things aren't going for you here on the medical marijuana front as smoothly as you'd like for them to go, listen up here. Our neighbor state. What is this? This is Oregon and who else?
No, it's Colorado and Washington.
And Washington State.
Not
Oregon
Oregon.
actually said no.
Oregon said no?
Yes.
Okay. To what?
Legalized pot.
Okay. What now? Colorado is nearby. So
Yes.
what happened?
Close enough.
Yeah.
Close enough.
See you in Durango.
In Colorado, Amendment 64 will allow anyone over the age of 21 to purchase up to an ounce of marijuana.
Okay.
Also, they are allowed to grow 6 plants in their home.
So none of this medical hogwash.
No.
You just grow it.
Legalize it.
I just want me some dope.
Let's do it.
All right. That's in Colorado. And what? Can you share it with your? Can you sell it?
Well, you can buy it, so I'm guessing you can sell
I
it.
guess you can. I mean, why else would you need 6 stalks in there with your hydroponic recycled gardening
If
system?
you ever driven a station wagon, you need 6 stalks.
Well, how are you going to get the hydroponic equipment moved from friend to friend without a
Exactly.
station? Right? Okay, so we saw
Tied to the roof.
Okay.
In Washington, there is now a state license system for marijuana dispensaries, stores, and for people to purchase it through processors. They also set up a DUI now for pot, and there is a legal blood limit.
Oh, I wonder how you measure that because it's a percentage of what THC.
Well, it's easy. It actually states here to test someone. You ask them how are they doing, and if they respond with groovy, then they're high. Right. This is step 1 or step 2, I guess, after medical marijuana.
Yeah.
Pot will be legalized.
Oh,
well,
yeah, sure.
in Colorado, one of the things that they've been dealing with there is the same thing they're dealing with in California now, is that they thought they were going to have medical pot, and we would have a couple of what would essentially turn into a Walgreens or a CVS kind of a situation. But instead, they got every guy on every corner in every little town in Colorado selling medical pot. And so they just said, what the heck? Feeling groovy, why don't we just say what we wanted to say in the first place, make it legal?
Well, look, yes.
Right?
It fits.
Am I right? And
Sure.
this is the way Arizona is headed because this is what they want here also.
But keep in mind, it will only take the Arizona Department of Public Safety, probably till the end of this program, to begin instructing the enforcement, our police officers who are on the various highways and things, as they pull cars over in Arizona, and they often will say, where are you headed? Especially if you're out on an open highway, well, where are you headed? And if you say, I'm either going to or coming from Four Corners, you're done. They're going to search your car.
Oregon said no to legalize pot. Massachusetts said yes to medical marijuana.
Uh-huh.
And Arkansas said no to medical marijuana.
Arkansas said no to medical marijuana.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they ain't got no pot in Arkansas anyway. Every friggin' hillbilly up there. In the
Moonshine.
Ozarks.
Moonshine.
Yeah. Moonshine and pot. All right, so that's a little recap on the pothead thing.
But the problem with every state is that marijuana is still against the
law.
Federal
law. It is. Before we do Nation himself into medical school, he hopefully would not be a doctor under socialized medicine. Now he and his wife are reevaluating their medical school decision based on the election results of last night. And she said, why don't you just become a PA, physician's assistant? Less school, less debt. You still get to, kind of be a doctor and sort of diagnose and do things.
Kind of, sort of.
Kind of, sort of.
Isn't really.
Right. But there's a
Being
place.
one.
There is a place for PAs. You
Absolutely.
You need good PAs.
We do.
So, all right. With all that in mind, what are your thoughts?
That's
on
crazy talk. First of all, medicine has been sort of socialized for quite a long time. I mean, the government has had their fingers in there for so long. It's just, it's unbelievable. But if you want to be a physician, go to medical school. Don't drop your hopes and dreams off the financial and fiscal cliff here because of what Obama's going to do. Now, you are going to be co-opted probably by the government. Eventually, you're going to work for them. I would say that most of the people I know in the medical business believe they're already working for the government. Barry, you know this too. I mean, you have excellent health insurance, as do I, as Andrew does. We go to great places to get our care. But you talk to these people. I grew up in that community. you know that they believe right now that they're already working for the government.
Many of them.
Many of them, you know, because of Medicare and Medicaid. So fulfill your dream. Go out there, get that degree. You will never regret it. It's just a marvelous and serving the Lord, their profession.
Right, so
I would say,
you're telling him, don't lose your vision. Just
absolutely do not lose your vision.
Keep going.
It's frustrating. I understand that, but do not lose vision. Do not lose sight of a goal. Please.
All right. So what was
Spencer?
the gentleman's name? Spencer.
Spencer.
The word has gone out here from on high, and I think I agree with you. I think the word's out here. Don't lose your. Try it. Just
Please.
try it. Don't be discouraged.
Don't fall short of the dream, please.
All right, here I wanted to, very quickly, since we're going to be taking a lot of calls today. Here's Tim calling in from Phoenix on KFYI. Morning, Tim.
Good morning, Barry. How are you?
Good. Welcome, sir, to the show.
And it was great seeing you guys last night. First time I got to meet you guys, and I just wanted to kind of go through a couple of things with respect to the message from the Republican Party. We learned nothing from when George Bush won the Hispanic vote or got a pretty good majority of it. We learned nothing from 2008. Barack Obama controlled the Hispanic vote last night with that deferred action, and Mitt Romney and the rest of the Republicans, including talk radio, failed on the message of deferred action. Barack Obama in the last debate said he gave people a pathway to citizenship, and the Romney campaign refused or just blatantly forgot or refused to address it. They really did. And I'm a teacher in a highly populated school with Hispanics, and their parents, all of them, we're voting for Obama because of deferred action. Thankfully, I've been able to put that message out to a lot of my kids who then transferred that message to their parents. And a lot of parents, based off the information about deferred action that they have, didn't vote for Obama. But I just think the message from the Republican Party is way off, and I just thought that, we were doomed. We were really doomed with deferred action.
Well, I got to tell you something. It's one thing that I just have never understood about the hierarchy of the Republican Party. If you look at the Hispanic people who come into the United States, whether they've entered illegally or whether they are here legally, one of the things you're going to find out is that they share more views with Republicans than they do with Democrats. Republicans are more pro-business, more entrepreneurial than the Democrats, more in favor of you keeping more of the money that you make than the Democrats. And that's what they, when I say they, Hispanic Americans are really all about. They're very business oriented. They have their own businesses. They create
They're incredibly
business.
family oriented.
Family oriented. I mean, this is exactly family oriented, Michelle. Thank you very much. Family oriented. This is what Republicans are after. So why not go court them?
They're pro-life.
They really are. I'm sorry to cut you off, but and another thing, that the Republicans were so myopic in believing that Latinos only care about immigration. It is about the economy, and 60% of the people who voted last night, including Latinos, believe that it was the economy. And it's just, I think it's the apathy of the Republican Party, this indifference that is seething through our party right now with respect to, well, I don't need to go out and vote because Romney had it in the bag. And that's what really lost it, too. Yeah. And when we come down to it, the Democrats showed up, and it's unfortunate that we couldn't get our message out there. And, we can just look forward to 2016 and the Republicans in the House not funding Obamacare, which is in their right because all money starts in the House.
Yeah, it does. It does. Well, thank you so much, Tim, for the call. Appreciate you getting on the air. More of this show, more of your phone calls are seconds away on KFYI.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Jim Sharp, tomorrow morning at 5:06. Now, Barry Young, News Talk 550 KFYI.
KFYI.com.
You are just joining us on the program. The stunning news on the election last night is that there were more Republicans registered to vote than Democrats for the first time that I ever remember hearing a major election. And stunningly, more Democrats than Republicans voted. Many Republicans stayed home, that is the stunning news today. That story, a part of a Fox News exit poll summary. We have linked that to the KFYI.com, nearly famous Barry Show page, KFYI.com. Keyword Barry, go read it for yourself and make of it what you will. Now, here's Jeremy calling in from Mesa on KFYI. Jeremy?
Hi, good morning.
Morning, sir.
I'm really glad you started off with the topic about voter turnout. I saw this morning they're saying about 17 million fewer people voted this year in the elections. And, you know, I don't think we lost the election on ideas, on principle. I think we shot ourselves in the head on this one. We've been getting emails for the last several weeks from evangelical leaders encouraging people to go out and vote and saying, and you know, having videos about showing why they're deciding to vote for Romney. And you know, they always start the email by saying, "We know what Mormons believe, but we still don't want Obama in office." And they list all these reasons for it. So we were thinking, why are we getting these emails? This shouldn't even be an issue. But you know, after seeing the voter turnout, I'm wondering if religion wasn't more of an issue among our own party, among so-called conservatives.
That's an interesting question. The Fox News exit poll, I'm just looking over this very quickly here. I don't believe that the evangelicals, which were a quiet part of the Romney campaign, especially in Ohio, I don't believe they materialized in the number that the strategists thought they were going to materialize.
There's no question, and you and I were just talking about this just a couple of days ago, and that was that they stayed out of the race in 2008. They stayed out of the McCain race a little bit. Well, in great numbers, frankly. And we thought that we had solved this problem and that might be the thing to tip us over the edge. They might actually save us. Evangelicals would turn out in a big way in force and vote for Mitt Romney.
Sorry to interrupt you. You know, when Romney doesn't even hit the total votes that McCain had in 2008, with all that's going on around us, I mean, something's not right. You know, it just reeks of, I don't know. But again, I don't even know how you ever accurately measure, you know, what happened. I'm sure it's not just evangelicals. Obviously, just a lot of people in general.
Yeah, I would encourage you to go to KFY.com and get over to the fan page of the show and read this. It's not a short article. And the headline, again, Fox News exit poll summary. And it's really fascinating how polls are of the most accurate because they're not asking somebody what they're going to do. They're asking somebody what they already did. And it's not just people coming out of the polls on Election Day. This has to do with people who mailed in ballots and all kinds of things. So it makes for a very interesting read. I share your frustration. I see the frustration. There was, in Ohio especially, part of the unspoken plan was that evangelicals and church-going Catholics would show up. That was, I think, part of the giveaway on that was last week when the full-page ad from Billy Graham appeared, urging people to vote. Didn't say to Romney.
No.
He said to vote for...
Vote your conscience.
Yeah, candidates who have these beliefs. Well, only Romney had those beliefs. So they thought they had that, and they didn't have it, and so here we are today. But for there to be more Republicans registered to vote, and fewer did, more Republicans than Democrats.
It's disgraceful.
And more Democrats voted than Republicans.
What are we doing wrong?
This is a slap at party leadership. This is raises a real question about the dedication of Republicans, where your mind is, what you're thinking. Hang on, more of the show, seconds away.
Glenn Beck, later tonight at 7:06. Barry Young, now. News Talk 550 KFYI.
KFYI.com.
Yes, indeed. The nearly famous Barry Young Show on the day after. Many of you tuning in say, well, is he going to eat crow? Well, look, you go out on a limb, you take your best shot. I was out with some pretty good people out there. We all assumed that Republicans were going to do their job. We all assumed that people were going to vote in big numbers, and we were wrong. We were listening to this. Caller just a minute ago, gentleman on the air, very nice guy. He was on the air, and he said this, and I wanted him to get his points out because we were coming into a newscast, and I didn't want to interrupt him. But I'm going to pick up on something that he said. He said it just as a matter of fact within his phone call, all right? All the prognostications that I came up with and that people like Dick Morris and Krauthammer and Michael Barone and many others were based on the very basic assumption. Republicans would show up to vote. And as I've said a few times this morning, there, for the first time that I can ever remember, more Republicans registered than Democrats. You'd think that that was going to be a sign that would push Romney over the top. As it turned out, Mitt Romney did not collect even as many votes as did John McCain 4 years ago. I want that to sink in for a moment. Mitt Romney did not get as many votes. Now, I want to also say that voter turnout was lower across the board than it was 4 years ago. But Mitt Romney, even Republicans, who are supposed to be the base fired up, didn't go out and vote for Romney to the extent that they did McCain.
I am so stunned. I have been sitting here for more than a month, maybe 2 months, talking about this enthusiasm gap and about positivity and about people I run into saying we must win this race. We must win this race. I'm talking to everybody, my family, my friends, my kids, everybody who's eligible to vote, get out there and do it. And it didn't happen. It was showing up a little bit in the polls, but why did they not get there?
This is dumbfounding. Story today that Chris Christie is lashing out at what he knows, what he calls know-nothing disgruntled Romney staffers.
Nice.
More. Babinski finds the storm, Sandy. By the way, Chris Matthews has apparently said on MSNBC he's so glad we had Hurricane Sandy. Superstorm Sandy.
You mean because it worked in the president's favor?
Listen to this. You got some numbers here on Sandy.
The exit polls show that 57% of the country's voters thought that Hurricane Sandy and the response to that storm heavily impacted their vote. 42% that said the response to the storm was important. 15% said it was their number one issue.
Now, we talked about this on the air last night from the resort, the Monte Lucio Resort. By the way, what a fabulous place that was. Staff was fabulous. The
food was incredible.
The place is opulent. I mean, it's a fine getaway weekend place. Just
By the
go.
way, I'm still checked in.
There you go. She may not ever leave.
I'm not leaving.
Man. So, all this said, we mentioned the storm last night. The storm's coverage has been woefully lacking by the mass media in this country. That storm has affected in more disastrous ways than Katrina affected New Orleans, the Gulf.
There is no question.
Okay. So a lot of people are hurting. People are going to die. It's cold up there. There's no power. There won't be any power this week for a lot of people either. It's just absolute. It's a horrendous disaster of proportions that the country doesn't understand. Yet they were, I say, Andrew, impressed by President Barack Obama's performance.
And it was important to their vote. Okay. More than half. Well, more than half.
Okay, so let me get this right. More than half the voters are impressed by Obama's response to Sandy, which is worse than Bush's response to Katrina. More Republicans were registered to vote than Democrats, yet fewer Republicans voted than Democrats, and fewer Republicans voted for Romney than they did for McCain 4 years ago.
And one last number. More voters in general still blame George W. Bush, who hasn't been president for 4 years, for the economy and the situation we're in right now.
Well, you know what? All of us can sit here, and I say all of us. I'm including myself with these big names like Peggy Noonan and Michael Barone and Dick Morris and all this. Everybody can sit there and make forecasts, damned accurate ones, based on what you folks say you're going to do and based on how you respond to the polling that when they ask you. But if the voters simply sit on their ass and don't follow through, what can we do? What do you expect?
You briefly mentioned this. I want to play it for you, the Chris Matthews soundbite. His closing argument last night on MSNBC. He's very happy about the storm.
Let me just close my thoughts tonight. Please. It takes a half a second. I am so proud of the country to reelect this president and overcoming, not because of the partisanship or even the policies, just the fact, here's an African-American guy from an unusual background, part immigrant background, part African-American background. Good work for them, good work for him, a good day for America. I'm so glad we had that storm last week.
Holy cow. People are freezing to death in Staten Island. They have no food. They got no gas. Rockaway's a disaster. We're talking
Staten Island is a mess.
Tens of millions of people who are in trouble up there, and the big media.
Dying. We're talking about death.
By the way, do you know how the media is skidding by in covering this, making you believe that they're covering the real humanity? They are, all of them, they're going out and finding a good Samaritan, somebody who will go take 10 gallons of milk jugs, and fill them up with water from the fire hydrant and lug them up 17 or 15 stories to the top of the building and help their neighbor. Okay. And then they say, and they had another one, is a guy who has a gas station, no gas, but he's got one of them hand pumps, and he's pumping gas for people 5 gallons at a time and not gouging for the generators out there. All right. These are great human interest stories, but it's not widespread coverage. That's all you're seeing are the Good Samaritan stories. That's passing for the coverage. This is equivalent to Mitt Romney giving a major speech, and all you get is a stand-up news guy standing, in front of the crowds, not letting you hear what Romney says, but saying, we're here covering the speech, but you don't hear a thing that he says. This is a trick that they play. And so you don't get to see how bad the devastation is. Yet they say, look, we covered it last night.
There's another thing that happened. It took Mitt Romney off the news for 5 days while they said they were covering this storm.
Right.
Well, they said they were covering it, but it took the Challenger off the newspapers and out of the television screens and for 5 long days.
It's 8:48 here from the Fortress of Civility. More of your phone calls are seconds away on KFYI.
Trusted news, valued opinions. This is News Talk 550 KFYI.
The program's on the air from the Fortress of Civility. 602-260 KFYI. Here's Simon calling from Scottsdale on KFYI. Simon, welcome, sir, to the show. Simon? Simon? Everyone, listen. Here we go. Simon had a late night last night. Let's listen in here for a moment. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get him up. Hey, Simon!
What up?
Time to get up, pal.
What are we doing?
I don't know. What are we doing, buddy?
Well, I fell asleep.
No kidding. Did you really?
Your show put me to sleep today.
So glad we could be of help.
Well, Barry, I'm out here at celebrating at the Scottsdale Plaza Hotel.
Uh-huh.
Last time we spoke, you raised your voice a little and hung up the phone.
Uh-huh.
And I'd like to be gracious.
I may do it again.
But I won't be.
Oh, okay then. Thanks for calling. Let's see here. Matt is calling from Surprise on KFYI. Matt?
Good morning.
Good morning.
There's lots of factors, on what happened in the election. And one of the factors, and I hope you give me a chance to talk here, but, I called into you about 2 months ago about this, about the Mormon factor with evangelicals. And I told you, at the time, I voted for Romney. I told my friends, listen, we're not electing a pope. We're electing a president. But, Barry, I'm telling you right now, there was a huge non-turnout of evangelicals because they would not vote for a Mormon.
I see that's your opinion, and you're entitled to it.
But it's not my opinion.
It is your opinion because
I'm telling you that there's people that
right.
who felt that way.
All right, let me just finish the statement. Of course, there are people who feel that way, but we don't know if that's stretched across the board. We don't know if that's just anecdotal information. There's always going to be somebody who won't vote for somebody because they're the wrong religion or they wear the wrong tie or something like that. I'm not, and you may yet turn out to be right. I don't think so. All I can tell you is that the huge swell of evangelical and church-going religious Christians that they were hoping would swell up in Cincinnati didn't. That doesn't mean that they stayed home. I don't know yet if they did. You might be right, and I'll be very interested to see if you're right, but we don't have the data yet. And it's interesting, it hasn't shown up on any of the exit poll data yet. So We will wait, and we will see, and we will take more of your phone calls right after the news update next on KFYI.
This is the Nearly Famous Barry Young Show.
Sorry about that. I slightly missed the cue, but I have good reason for doing it. Ladies and gentlemen, hour 3 of the Nearly Famous Barry Young Show, coming to you from the Fortress of Civility. Let me start this hour by saying, I was walking up the hallway just a second ago. We saw the boys from KNIX. Which one did I talk to? I was getting confused up there.
Matt.
Matt of KNIX. And Matt looked at me and he said, "Hey,
you're such a loving colleague."
I am. I really am. It's either Ben and Matt, and I knew it was 50%.
One or the other. Yeah.
It was actually Willie, Barry. You were talking to Willie.
Thanks very much. Yeah. No, these people are real radio announcers. So it was Matt, and he's just mentioned up the hallway because we were going to get some coffee. And he said, "Hey, that's a great prediction you had last night, pal." I said, "Well, we're just a little bit off." He said you were nearly close.
He spanked you pretty hard.
Did really. I'm anxious also. I know that Fox interviewed Peggy Noonan just a little while ago. She was out on this limb with me, too. So we're all floating down the river on the limb today. I can't help it if Republicans didn't go. More Democrats than Republicans voted. More Republicans than Democrats were registered. Somebody help me figure this out. Where were the Republicans? During the intro to the show, my cell phone just lit up, and it was none other than our friend Vernon Parker, ladies and gentlemen, running in the new District 9. Now, that race started out close. That race is still very close, and we were given some information earlier. In fact, Babinski, if you do a search for the race through Google.
Well, Google has their entire polling map,
right,
which is updated like every 3 seconds.
Okay.
It's really detailed.
And they're trying to say that 100% of the vote is in.
They say Arizona District 9, 100% reporting. It just updated right now.
Okay.
Sinema leads Vernon Parker by 2,100 votes.
2,100 votes. But it's saying 100% are in.
Correct.
But nobody's saying the race is over yet. Nobody's calling the race.
There's no call.
Okay, and the reason why, and that's as the theme music was playing, I just had a phone call from Vernon Parker himself. And he sounds good, sounds a little tired. I'm sure he's been up all night. He's got, that sound in his voice like you have when you're up all night. And he said, look, there are tens of thousands of votes. They don't know how many. Maybe I don't even put a number on it, but it sounded to me like he's thinking more than 50. Mm-hmm. Tens of thousands.
It's a lot of votes.
That have not yet been counted in CD9. So if that is the case, I mean, if it's tens of thousands, mm-hmm. You don't just stack them in the vote counting machine at Helen Purcell's office and get an instant number that's there it is. That takes a while.
This is a week-long process.
Could be. I mean, today is Wednesday. We may not know today mm-hmm. at all. We may not know Thursday. Maybe Friday. I don't know. And then if that's the case and the race is still very close, there will be a recount. There's just going to be, it's a mandatory recount within a certain percentage.
Within a certain margin. And remember, this is not unusual to Arizona. Remember back to the race between Matt Simmon and Janet Napolitano. That took, 8 days to figure that out? We had a J.D. Hayworth race that took 7 or 8 days. So this is not unusual here.
This is big. This is big news.
And if I'm Vernon Parker, you better believe I'm hanging in there. And
Absolutely. And look, this is the newest congressional district. It was supposed to be put together by a bipartisan commission. Mm-hmm. It wasn't. This district was carved out so that Republicans couldn't win. The fact that he is this close to his Democratic opponent is stunning to begin with. So if you have tens of thousands of these things out, there's every realistic probability that the percentages that you see that have been attributed to each candidate aren't going to be there. Let me say one other thing too. We've had a couple of districts where libertarian candidates. Now I love the libertarian philosophy. Ronald Reagan himself said that the Republican Party, that it's infused with a great deal of libertarian thought, is what makes the Republicans the backbone of the Republican Party. I think that was the quote. is the backbone of the Republican Party. However, we have in the Vernon Parker race, what's the other one?
And Kirkpatrick.
And Kirkpatrick.
Oh, and Jonathan Payton, yes.
We have two libertarians who are running who had a pretty good turnout of, maybe 8,000, 10,000 votes. Those votes, there's no question, are more, if the Libertarian wasn't there, are more in alignment with the conservative Republican candidate.
Yes.
Certainly than the Democrat. Had the Libertarian not been there, the Republican would have walked away with it. Both races would be over. So this is, I know you Libertarians are going to say, oh, he's beating us up again, he's beating us up again. No, I'm not. I'm just saying this is an issue. I don't know the proper way to even approach it.
Okay, you don't want to beat them up? Let me do it for
Here
you.
we go. Ladies and gentlemen, here's our own Corella Michelle Buffy Lee Larson with the beat down.
Thank you.
Sick 'em.
Yeah, go get it.
This is a
Go
beat
get
down. Does anybody remember 1992?
Okay, stand by. Round one is on.
If not for Ross Perot, we would have had a second presidency, or a second term of George H.W. Bush.
There's no question.
There is no question Ross Perot took 19, think about that for a second, 19% of the vote. For what purpose? Only to get the Democrat elected. And then once you're the incumbent, what's going to happen? It's easier to get elected the second time. So we had 8 years of the Democrat. And that was all due to somebody jumping in and saying, I can do it better even knowing I won't get elected. This is Crazyville.
Yes, somebody,
it's Crazyville.
Somebody's got to be the grown-up here.
Yes.
Somebody has to figure out in the Republican Party, you got to figure out a way to do the impossible. Let's work with a bunch of libertarians. You're going to, or else you're going to have this undiluted vote for the liberal Democrat and a diluted vote for the conservative position. You'll have a libertarian who's basically a fiscal conservative, and you'll have a Republican who's basically a fiscal conservative. They'll differ probably on some social issues, but in the big picture of things, the defense of the United States, the debt of the United States, spending money, bigger government, and all that, they agree on the most important things. Mm-hmm. And so you have a diluted vote, and we have this with this Ann Kirkpatrick and Jonathan Payton.
Mm-hmm.
Nice,
Very
terrific
nice
guy,
man.
should go there.
The Libertarian in that race was Kim Allen, who received 12,000 votes. Right now, the difference between Kirkpatrick and Payton is 7,000.
Wow.
7,000. So that would have been a win for Kirkpatrick.
No,
I'm sorry for Payton.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
in Vernon Park, Gamble received 10,000 votes, and the difference between Sinema and Parker right now is 2,000.
Wow.
So Parker would be the winner even now. I mean,
assuming that more
right.
than half of those votes went to Parker.
Well, that's the question. What areas of the whack job District 9 are these uncounted votes from? We don't know. But it's what we call a pot load of them, tens of thousands, maybe as many as, maybe more. Who knows? We don't know. But there's a lot of them down there. So.
My wife's vote is one of them. She got to the poll before it closed, and she had an early ballot, which she forgot to send in.
Yeah.
So she just dropped it off there. So her ballot's sitting there and hasn't been counted yet.
Yeah,
Right.
it will be. So there you go. I mean, this Congressional District 9 is not over. And let me tell you the miracle that has happened down south of here, down on toward Tucson way. The hand-picked replacement for Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords was one of her staffers. He's a really, I mean, if you put him out there, and you have him sitting out there, what you got is you gotta. He just ain't bright. He's just not.
Let's just say that Dynamo would not come to mind.
No.
If you're looking at Ron Barber, that would not be the impression.
Yeah, he has an intellect. I'll put it to you this way graphically. He has an intellect that matches Rahul Grijalva's wardrobe. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of droopy.
You know what you say about a person like that? He's a very nice man.
He's a nice man. I'm sure he is. He's a very nice man. He is running against one of the most incredible women I have ever interviewed over the phone on this program.
Well, and I got to meet her last week in person, and she's just amazing.
The Colonel.
Lieutenant Colonel?
I think she's a full bird. I think she's a full bird colonel. I believe she is, but I don't know. That's Martha McSally, first female combat pilot in the whole United States Air Force. Flew those A-10 Warthogs. She's a family woman, conservative, good woman, and she's running down there. And everybody said, "Oh, it's great that she's running. Ain't got a snowball chance in hell. It's great that she's running, but boy, let's cut her off a few dollars here, just so we'll feel good about things."
Yeah, isn't she cute?
She's really sweet, and maybe she'll get her feet wet and want to get into politics. She's beating him. It ain't over yet, but she's beating him.
I'm so proud of her.
She's beating the machine. She's beating this. If she wins, she will have beaten the Gabrielle Giffords sympathy vote.
Well, I think that's exactly right. Andrew, he was laughing. She came on the air last week.
Because Barbara has no campaign. It's a sympathy vote.
He has no personality. It's a sympathy campaign. But remember when she came on the air with us last week and she immediately, you were, like you always are, you were being a little jokester.
Yeah.
Right there out of the chute.
I learned something real quick. Don't joke with the colonel.
She jumped right in. She was
really
just like off to the races. It was quite amazing.
I start off my interviews. So, Colonel, two Jews walk into a bar. Let me tell you about fiscal responsibility. Okay, Colonel, yeah.
Very, very little times can a candidate win me over with an interview.
Did she win you over?
Oh, it was such
so
a great
good.
interview.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, a little bright spot here. She's winning.
Oh,
and
man.
in congressional...
Slightest of margins, 386 votes.
Wow.
But she's winning. That's the thing. So I've got... Are all the votes in down there? Do we know yet, or are there still some lagging out?
This is 100% reporting, but, I mean, when it comes... Look at Vernon Parker. There could be tens of thousands of ballots sitting aside there.
All right, so that's what's going on in Congressional District 9. That's what's going up in northern Arizona. That's what's going up down in southern Arizona. But man, can you imagine? Look, no disrespect to the Gabrielle Giffords people. That's fine, but everybody knows a lot of that's a sympathy vote for that Ron Barber.
Well, you better believe it. And I know, Mr. Garcia, we've got a break. This is so funny. I was watching Greta Van Susteren last week, and I texted both of you and said, Martha McSally is on with Greta. This is incredible. She's just like knocking him dead, right? She's just incredible. Well, Greta says at the end of the interview, she invited Ron Barber. They were going to have a split screen, you know, and let them kind of do a little debate there.
Right.
It didn't fit his schedule. And I'm thinking to myself, you got a national television audience. Everybody in Arizona is going, Fox News, so on and so forth. But it was so funny. And I thought, he just didn't want to have that face and that personality sitting next to that little dynamo.
I'm telling you.
He didn't want to do it.
And I want to say one other thing, too. And this is, if I could elevate the conversation for just a minute about Colonel McSally, she just makes me hot. What? Hold on a second. It's 9:19 at KFYI.
Quick, concise news updates at 00 and 30. News Talk 550 KFYI.
Yesterday, we're going to get to more phone calls in a minute. Yesterday, Reverend Jared Maupin is hauling people around in the Moppet Mobile, whatever it is. I think it's a van. And he had them out voting for unlikely candidates. He had them out voting for Carmona and Obama and Vernon Parker. And said, call me back. Let me know what's going on. Well, and he's on the lines with us. Look, you didn't get Carmona. You got Obama, and we may have Parker. You may be faring better than anybody here. At the end of the day, you may wind up with 2 out of 3.
You know, I'm feeling pretty good, and the fact is, I was a blogger for azcentral.com. I called the election for Obama at about 4:30, and I was off by about 5 or 6 electoral votes, and I was well within the margin in terms of the popular vote. So I wasn't worried about the president because of the extensive lines that I saw at polling places all around the country. But what I am worried about, and to me, the election is not over. It's not over until we figure out what's going on in CD9, because the precincts that they're talking about, the Southwest, South Scottsdale. Now, the South Scottsdale precinct, white, they have a tendency to be more conservative. The precinct in East Phoenix, that's where I was working hard. African American.
Yeah, I'm losing you on your phone. To orient yourself a little bit because I'm dropping out.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Go ahead.
The southeastern corner of CD9 is where I was getting African Americans out to the polls. So I think once they take a look at the the ballots that were cast by individuals that signed up for vote by mail but showed up at the polls anyways, the provisional ballots, I think we're going to see a victory absolutely for Vernon Parker. I mean, the district was stacked against him, and the only thing that changed in that district was my support of him. He went with me into the churches, into the communities. We were rounding people up. We hired bus drivers, got buses from churches. We did all kinds of things to get people to the polls, and I think that we will see the results of that when they actually count those people's votes.
Man, I'll tell you, I'm not gonna pick apart one thing you've said. That could make a huge amount of difference. And, you know, you probably heard it. I mentioned on the air that I'd had a phone call from Vernon Parker at 9 o'clock saying that, hold on, it ain't over. Just as you said, tens of thousands of ballots uncounted right now. So, and those would be, Michelle, those would be some provisional ballots also.
Yes, also provisional ballots. But if it's that many, if we're talking tens of thousands, we have a real race going on. And I suspect it will take as much as a week or more.
All right, well, clearly your message from God was more clear than my message from God.
That's because you're Catholic.
All right, my bud. Listen, I appreciate you calling. But at the end of the day, by the way, how many people do you think you hauled around?
You know what? I would say, based on the number of vehicles we had on the move, it would have to be about 7 to maybe 7,500 people that were actually picked up and moved around. And let me tell you, it speaks to the larger issue that you were talking about in terms of how we swung the national election. It is all about turnout, and I make no exaggeration to you when I tell you that we went into the project, we went into these poor communities, we knocked on the door. I went to 3 houses where I had to talk to these single mothers. They were in there, they were washing dishes, they were cooking breakfast. I go up to the window, I say, come on, you come on and vote. Put that mess down, get in the car, and let's vote. It's a lot is at stake. The president, Mr. Carmona, and for Vernon, you have to put your hands on people and get them to the polls. And I don't mean that in a violent or intimidating way.
No, I know exactly what
people need a little help.
Let me send a message to the Republican Party right now. For Republicans, listen to this. This is Reverend Jarrett Maupin. Hire him.
Oh, let me tell you something. To help Vernon, and I think the party would attest to this. I needed some support to help get the vote out for Vernon in terms of buses. I ended up organizing churches to get it done, but I went to them. I said, you all have waited until October to realize that this man is an African American. I said, you need to get out there and connect with this community. That's what I've been doing. I sat down with your chairman. I sat down with the communications director, one of their chief strategists down there. I mean, it took a lot for me to walk past that Doty, London, Reagan seal they got down there and go in there and tell them to help me get this Negro elected to Congress.
Oh.
So
that was a little rough, but I appreciate what you're saying. It was a little harsh.
I'm willing to work. For me, this is more. I said it to the Republic. To me, it's unapologetically and unquestionably about black political progress in Arizona, and I was willing to work with whomever I needed to, conservative or liberal, Republican or Democrat, to get Vernon elected. And in the end, the support wasn't what I would have liked to have seen. But I think the community is getting it done on its own. I really think we've got a huge victory coming down the line.
Based on what you're saying, based on what I've heard earlier today, you may be right, but you have hit on such a kernel of truth here, and that is that Democrats are willing to work with everybody, and Republicans, the heck is wrong sometimes. Yeah, you got a perfectly viable candidate there, and you know what? Reverend Maupin is absolutely right. They waited a long time to realize what we have running here. Listen, Jarrett, call in anytime. Good to talk to you. Thanks for being on the show.
Mike Boomhead, later today at 4:06. Barry Young, now. News Talk 550 KFYI.
KFYI.com.
From our Fortress of Civility, this day after. Back to the phones. We're going to go here. 602-260-KFYI. I want to be a part of what's going on here. Feel free. Here's Alex calling in from Mesa on the program. Alex.
Good morning, Barry.
Morning, Alex.
Michelle. I'm so glad to see Mr. Moffat come out and approve of Republican Vernon Parker just because he's black. in my eyes, what does him being African American have anything to do? I believe his qualifications were way better and are way better than Kirsten Sinema's ever could be.
Well, look, my feeling is that his political stance is tremendously better because he's a capitalist. Kirsten Sinema is a socialist bordering on something even more extreme. And
so what does race have to do with it? Why would we have to go out to help Vernon Parker because he's black? What does that have to do with it? Why is it not because he is a much better candidate?
Let me give you an answer, and I know Michelle wants to say something here. I know what motivated Reverend Jared Maupin. I know what motivated him, and what motivated him is that either Kirsten Sinema herself or someone in her campaign approved some mailers that went out with a picture of Vernon Parker that had either been doctored. It happened 2 or 3 times, by the way. They'd either been doctored or they were like, one frame of a video where he was smiling in a way that looked like a black minstrel show. And you see the pictures of him on his website. You see what he really looks like. And they were kind of making him look like a goofy black minstrel show, Mr. Bojangles kind of guy. And I had mentioned this on the air. We talked about it on the show here. But I think the second or third time that it happened, Jared Maupin saw it and said, enough of this, to hell with this.
But isn't that the entire Democratic Party doing that to all minorities?
I'm sorry?
Why are minorities satisfied with eating the scraps off the Democratic table when Republicans offer them a seat at the same table?
I wish I could answer. I wish I could give you a legitimate answer to the question.
Well,
You're absolutely right.
I think, Alex, you make an excellent point. It's very legitimate here because Jarrett actually said to us on the phone just a few minutes ago that he was doing it especially to get somebody of color ahead in in politics, not Republican politics, but in politics in the state of Arizona. He admitted that right here on the air. So it was about the fact that Vernon Parker is an African American. Now, I'm sorry that people feel that way, that it's almost like an affirmative action program for politics, and it shouldn't be that way. Vernon Parker certainly doesn't need that. But Jared Maupin felt like, you know what, if we can get somebody elected, if we have a bigger presence on the national stage that way, then that's important.
Well, let me ask this. Well, I'm just being a devil's advocate here for a moment. Nowhere in our laws or any of the printed material, voter guides or any of that, does it actually stipulate how a voter is supposed to come to a conclusion of who he's going to vote for. It's kind of like being on a jury, and maybe it's a murder trial or a shoplifting trial, or just the neighbor next door cut down a tree and it's a civil suit. And when the jury retires to the jury room, God knows you've been on a big jury, I know.
Big one.
And I've been on a couple of juries. There are no the judge may give you instruction on what the law is, but there are no rules on how the jury can reach the decision.
That's exactly right.
They can play tiddlywinks until they get a winner. They can do tic-tac-toe. They can do rock, paper, scissors. They just can. And so the same with the voter. And I understand what you're saying. In a perfect world, Alex, I understand what you're saying. But really, the motivation of the voter is none of our business in the big picture. It really isn't. I mean, if somebody wishes to get somebody elected because they're of the same race and that's the deal, and fine. I think maybe what we ought to be doing, and I hear you loud and clear, my friend, I do hear you. But I think maybe what we and the Republican Party ought to be doing is asking ourselves, how come we don't have people, conservatives don't have people like Jarrett Maupin, who are walking into what he considers to be the belly of the beast, into the center of the dragon, as far as he's concerned, the Arizona Republican Party, and saying, I want to help one of your people. And we treat it, it's like, okay, fine, good. Thanks for coming by. Why don't the Republicans reach out more to the Hispanics?
I know. Believe as Republicans, and trust me, I've crossed that line down there at the Doty London, Memorial Center. Here's the deal. we really believe that we all should be colorblind. We hope and we theorize that that's the case. We want the brightest and the smartest and the best. And so we don't say, hey, because he's a black man, we need him running in this particular race.
But if a guy comes in and says, I'm black, and this other guy over here, he's black, and I want to help my black brother, and our paths happen to go along, we happen to be going in the same direction, why the heck aren't we jumping on his bandwagon then? I mean, the Democrats do. You know, before the Democratic convention, first time that Bill Clinton was running to get nominated, they actually had, they meaning the Democratic Party and Clinton's people, had to go to all of these various groups, you know, the gay guys, the scruffy lesbians, the glamour dykes, and I'm not trying to be divisive here. I'm just telling all the groups they went to, the tree huggers, the anti-capitalists, the heterosexual, transsexual, whatever they are.
The big diversification.
Yeah, they went to them, they said, listen, we understand that you're all activists, and some of you have mutually exclusive goals. In other words, you can't all be winners. So you've come to us for help. So in order to get Bill Clinton elected, for the time of the convention, just shut up. Just don't make a lot. If you disagree with this guy over here, disagree. We'll take care of you later. Just come together right now. Republicans don't do that.
No, you are absolutely correct, and we don't talk about this enough because what they have done beautifully in with such precision in the Obama campaign and what they did in the Clinton campaign is micromanage and micro-target. But they bring all those little tiny groups together, and they play them off each other, so they have to hang together.
So maybe,
essentially,
maybe you know what they were focusing on then is the end game. What gets us more efficiently, effectively to the goal over here? And so, therefore, if the Republican Party over there on 24th Street, the party headquarters, has a black man walk in who's a Democrat, and he says, I'd like to help your black Republican candidate get elected, you know, in my opinion, that's when you go colorblind. And you say, okay, that guy's going to get our guy elected, get out of the way and give him what he wants. But they didn't. Apparently, you know, he's in the fight. Parker's in the fight of his life against a woman who is, for all intents and purposes, not only anti-capitalist, she's basically a communist. And I'm not running the old, you know, Red Scare right now. These are her political views.
Well, for my intents and purposes, somebody who should never even be a legitimate candidate for that seat. So, and we're going to probably wait another 8 days to find out the outcome of this
They spent millions of dollars on her campaign to basically deny what she is, to make her look more like something she's not, more like Vernon Parker.
Absolutely true.
It's just dumbfounding. So, at any rate, here we are the day after, and Alex, you know what? I hear you loud and clear. Perfect world. I'm right there with you. I understand. Let's pause. It's 9:48. It's KFYI.
Get your Fox News fix at the top and bottom of the hour from News Talk 550 KFYI.
Yeah, the little race that could. I'm going to give you an update on the little race that could. This is Martha McSally. And you know what? Now, I got to tell you, I'm a little ticked off, too, because I have people coming to me and saying, oh, she's a great gal, but, you know, she can't win. She just can't. She can't do it. Because that Ron Barber who's down there, who's, as we have said, just appears to be dumb as a box of rocks. But it was the hand.
You know, that's not fair. He's just boring. That's different.
Okay.
He's lumpy and he's boring.
He's about as exciting, from everything I've seen of him, he's about as exciting as searching through a cigar box of used rubber bands. You ever done that? Everybody saves rubber bands. You got 500 or 600 and you're looking for a yellow one. You know what I'm talking about?
It's like, you know, you look at the ads or you look at the TV commercial and you go, it's kind of like doing the Where's Waldo thing.
Well,
it's very strange.
He was the handpicked one to succeed her, so that was the sympathy vote. And everybody kept saying, well, the sympathy vote is going to reign supreme down there. So, you know, bless her heart. The Colonel, Martha McSally, and we hope she does well. Now, get along, little lady. Go on out there and knock him dead, because we're busy up here with big stuff. All right, latest update on this election.
Well, still 100% reporting.
Yeah, right.
her lead has grown
Uh-huh.
from 386 to 1,312.
So she's really put about 1,000 more votes and space between Ron Barber.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So there's a little race that could.
Kind of like KFYI back, 20 years ago. The little station that could.
Right. And it's sort of, there's a lot of I'm glad you brought that up. There's a lot of similarities because, Colonel McSally, the first female combat pilot in the Air Force, flew those big, heavy A-10 Warthog tank buster airplanes.
By the way, that's she's the only person in the plane.
Yeah, she's the only
There's
one.
one person flying that thing.
And you got to be ballsy to do that. That's a heck of an airplane. And so there she is flying that thing. And see, what they didn't understand when KFYI came into town is that we were sort of doing talk radio. We were flying a Warthog. We just go right up and say things that we just weren't supposed to say on the air.
Kind of carpet bombing everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And the competition's over there managed by a guy like Ron Barber. People were listening out of the sympathy vote. We want to send our best, by the way, to our competition. I'm not trying to make any fun here about this because this is a bad thing. This is just bad luck. What are you doing? You're imitating a dead spot on the band, right? Don't laugh, Michelle. No, I'm being very serious. But the poor folks over at KTR, they were off the air during the election for how long?
I heard an hour.
Wow.
An hour?
Holy
But
cow.
it wasn't an important hour. It was just written Arizona was closing.
My goodness. Well, we wish him the best.
Oh, and thanks again to our friends over at the Monte Lucia last night.
That
What
was
a
a
wonderful, wonderful evening.
Fabulous thing it was. Thanks to everybody joining us today. I'm going to go off and I think next time I'll forecast the stock market and get you people to invest in my ideas. Simon?